What's up, guys? We got a game against Sem Onem 2000 from Turkey. Long, hard-fought game, 50 moves, only to end up in a draw, which is fine. Draws are fine. As long as you don't make any crazy mistakes. As the graph shows, had an advantage at some point, but mostly even for the most part. So I open up with d4, c4 in Queen's Gambit fashion. He plays e6, Queen's Gambit declined. I take, he takes, he has to take. And now I develop a knight. These are all standard known moves. He develops his knight, defending the pawn. I develop my bishop to f4, because that's where I put it in most of my lines, instead of g5. He goes c6. It's one of the ways to play the Queen's Gambit declined, creating this pawn chain. I just go e3, and I'm ready to bring my bishop out, my knight out, and castle, and then go from there. He develops his bishop. Since there's no knight to pin, he goes to f5. I immediately challenge this diagonal and develop my bishop at the same time. So he either has to trade or basically retreat. He trades. And now again, I have 3 pieces. He has 1, but it's his turn, so 2, let's say. So whatever, things are pretty even, perfectly fine for both sides. He develops his dark square bishop with a pin on the knight and prepares castling. So that makes sense. I develop my last minor piece to its favorite square, and I prepare castling of my own. He jumps his knight into the center. It puts extra pressure on the pin, but it's not anything that matters because the knight's defended by a pawn and the queen. So I just ignore it and I castle. And now the knight is unpinned simultaneously. So now he takes the knight. Since I was threatening to capture his knight and win a pawn. He takes my knight. I can't take back with the queen because it hangs. So I take back with the pawn. And now he castles. And a lot of players, when they look at this position, newer players, it's very tempting to, let's just say, like an automatic move, maybe like rook to b8, rook to b1, which is probably a good move. It's definitely one of my candidate moves. But I feel like it's important to play c4 so this doesn't stay backwards, and you don't want it to be a long-term weakness. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think c4 is important to get it in. So I play c4. He develops a knight because c4 is not like a real threat. It's just a good move positionally. I take just to give him this isolated pawn. And so my argument is, my knight and his knight, they're both pretty good. This knight's not good. My bishop's better than his knight. My queen's better than his queen. And he has 3 pawn islands and I have 2. So I should be slightly better. And it's funny because you reason it out, you come to your conclusion, and a lot of the times the bar confirms it. So you'll see the bar will say out you're slightly better, and I don't know if it's for the reasons I said, but it probably is. Sometimes you're wrong in your judgment and whatever, but a lot of times you're right when you get the hang of it. So now I came up with a couple candidate moves. I wanted to bring a rook here or a rook here. And I figured that might be the best move. I figured, taking an open file or immediately attacking the pawn. And attacking the pawn is nice because he can never put anything behind it because it's covered. So it makes him go b6, spend a turn going b6. And it's nice because then I guess you could bring another rook over, but it's fine. That was what I was thinking. And then I'm like, but if I go queen b5 first, that actually comes with a double threat. Of course, it's not insurmountable. He can defend it, but I thought after that I can then bring my rooks here. And I thought maybe doing the queen first might be even more accurate. I saw what his response was. I saw he was going to go knight b6, thus defending both. But I didn't think it was a big problem. And so he basically has to go knight b6, but it's an obvious move. You find it through process of elimination. You have to defend both somehow. And yeah, here again, you could just take the open file. Of course, he's just going to challenge it, but that's fine. You have to take it anyway, because otherwise he's going to take it. Also, kind of have to watch this square if you move this knight. Also, eventually this square for this knight. So, black has a couple things going for him, so it's kind of annoying. But at the same time, I'm fully solid. Like, this whole thing is one little unit. Totally solid. This, I mean, eventually you just throw it up the board, put some rooks here. So white's fine too. I throw my knight in the center, just looking at this and also covering this square, because I didn't like his knight on c4. I thought it was kind of annoying, and I wanted the opportunity to trade it if I felt like it. The thing is, he could just go f6. I saw he can go f6, and I said, you know what? If he doesn't play f6, I have a nice knight. If he does play f6, at the very least, I can have a nice reroute to d3, which then gives me access to c5. And that's what happens. Now I'm knight d3. He develops his queen and offers the trade. I now feel like I don't have to trade, but if I move my queen away, I don't know, let's say here. Well, that's asking for a fork, so let's not sit there. Let's say here. Well, that walks into knight jumps, so... And even this. Yeah, so maybe you have to trade. I don't even know. But even if he didn't have the fork, I don't know if there's a huge advantage. I guess if you want to keep it to put pressure. I don't really know how that works, to be honest. So I take the queen because I figured that forces his knight to go back. And once again, these squares aren't good. So now he's going to have to waste time again coming back. And I thought I could use this opportunity to at least be like 1.5 tempi ahead of him. Like my starting move as white, and then the loss of time because of all these knight moves, whatever that adds up to. And so I thought I can get the c file, and if he challenges it, I actually have coordination on the c7 square, and so I can actually control it. So that was my plan. It seems to be reasonable. He challenges it immediately, and there's a pretty good move here, I think. I think I could just buy myself all the time in the world by going bishop c7. And basically this rook is stuck. This rook, well, can't take, and it kind of just lets me double on the c file freely. Knight c5 when I want. So that was a nice kind of very restricting move, but I didn't play that. Instead, I played a natural looking move, rook to b1, putting it on the semi-open file. It seems to be a lot stronger here because it now controls a lot of squares as opposed to before. It also comes with an immediate threat. Of course, he can go b6. He can also take your rook with check to deflect. But still, you have to get your rook into the game. So, and now again. The only square for this knight is here, and this pawn is under attack. So he figures I have to move my knight there anyway because that's where my knight's gonna go. And it defends the pawn, so why not do that immediately? I don't know what the engine thinks about it, and definitely not in this turn, but maybe in the future, maybe this is. No, that's dumb. Scratch that. It's probably really dumb. Never mind. B6 and C4 is probably a lot better. So anyway, he goes B6. And again, I think I could put a piece. I think again, bishop C7, because it hits the knight, and the knight will be double a hit. It still again restricts the rooks. I think bishops. It's interesting. It's a weird move, but I think it's just strong because his knights can't attack it. No knight jump. Like this doesn't have anything. This doesn't do anything. And this kind of just kills the rooks. Very interesting move. But instead I put my rook there. This is more natural looking or feeling, I feel like, getting your rook on the 7th. Attacking this. And then saying if you trade, now I'm going to have my bishop here double hitting this. I guess the move order does matter, and putting your bishop here buys you some time to improve your position. It's nuanced, I guess. He takes, which he shouldn't have because this is what I wanted him to do. I mean, it's tough here for black because you feel like, you know, if you don't take, you know, what are you going to do? Rook A, B8, and, you know, you can't even do that because you're walking into discoveries. Although maybe there are no good discoveries, but that's not the point. Even if forget the discoveries, it's like, you really want to play that position? So he takes, I take, he goes here, but now I get to take the knight. If you move the knight, the pawn's hanging, so I take the knight, and now my rook is active. Of course, I calculated no back rank mate. I'm up a pawn. I feel like, you know what, this is pretty drawn position. Yeah, I'm up a pawn, and maybe with perfect play, I can outplay him, but an endgame like this is, you know, rook and pawn, up a pawn, and probably a draw, because this covers this. But I have the initiative. I'm attacking this pawn. Like if it was my turn, easy win probably, but it's his turn, so he gets one turn to balance out the forces. He goes here, which I also calculated, because when I was deciding to go down this line, I knew that once I did this, he could go here, and this knight's covering the back rank. So if I move the knight, it's checkmate. But I saw that I had the defensive resource, rook b3, and it's obviously saves the game. It's an only move, and you had to have calculated this many moves ago. Not many, I don't know, like 4 or 5. So he doesn't trade because that's a bad end game for him. Because trade, his knight doesn't have good jumps, and mine's coming here next, and he can only lose that in spectacular fashion. You know, so why go through that? So he moves the rook. He has this square for pieces. He's also attacking my pawn. Here it's weird because it's like I take the pawn, he takes the pawn. I don't have any back rank stuff. I have back rank problems, so I'll probably have to spend this move. You know, let's just say G3 or whatever luft you make. This knight kind of is stuck double defending this square. I could sack that pawn, but only if my knight had the initiative to do something. It's like, yeah, I could, you know, win this pawn, but not at the cost of the f2 pawn. You know, d5 is an eternal weakness. Why give up my f2 pawn? So I didn't want to trade and then either have to defend f2 or I guess I could push the pawn. Did that not occur to me? Did I do that in the game? What did I do? I did take. Wait, I just said I didn't want to take. Yeah, f3. Oh, weird. Weird that I see it now pretty easily. I specifically see now I don't want to take, and I want to kick the knight, and then when I look at what I played, uh, was I worried about something? F3. I don't really see the problem. Weird. And so takes. I'm still up a pawn, all on one side of the board. I missed my chance to punish them. I thought here that I had to create Luft just so I can move my knight so I don't get back rank mated. Oh, what am I doing? This checkmate. It's funny because I was considering G4. It's so interesting. I was considering G4, but I wasn't entirely sure if it was better or worse than G3. I guess it's better, but still. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. Hard to tell. He goes G5, just advancing pawns, because it seems like, I know the engine's saying miss here, whatever, but it's kind of hard. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know you don't have a mate as black. You know you can't take on F2. What else is there to do? Move your king back and forth, or you have to push a pawn. I guess you could, you know, maybe this is a move, but I can always just hold with defending. And if here, you know, we could just repeat. So he just pushes his pawns. I push my pawns. He's pushing his pawns. I'm pushing my pawns. The engine hates all of this, but at the same time, it's all just even. It's not like, you know, we're blundering. It's, you know, he's winning, I'm winning. It's not like that. It's even. Just not the best moves. Okay, so we have to take, and now we're running out of moves to make. That was all what all that nonsense was, the past 5 moves. All of this pawn stuff here is just wasting our last moves before the draw comes to its conclusion. Now he finally attacks the knight, which defends this. But of course, I just defend the knight, and now he can't do anything, and I can't do anything unless I want to give up this pawn. He brings his king, I bring my king. We move around. He finds this little tactic to win his pawn back, but it's fine because it was nothing to do either way. Just pushing pawn, staying in the center. Now I want to get my knight here to trade. Maybe he messes up something with opposition or timing. So he just swings his king around. I can now get my knight on the optimal square. Either trade or I get these nice squares. He checks me, but now I move my king up. And again, if he's not careful, maybe I can have winning chances. Now he defends the knight. I jump in with check. He has to take. I have to take. He has to move his king over for opposition. And now it's a draw. He has a passer. I have a passer. My king has to monitor this. His has to monitor this. So I go back this way because there's no other moves on the board. And now basically you have to just not lose. So you can't let him take this pawn and then this pawn because you lose the game. So you have to not do that. So basically if he wants to come forward and take this pawn, he has to go here, right? And then you go back. And the reason is because he has no entry squares. If he goes back, then you go back and it's repetition. So if he wants to try to make progress, he can either go around the pawn, in which case you're gonna go and push it, or he has to push this pawn, which allows you to take it, and he'll take this trade, and then you just have to make sure you're in time to come around, not being zugzwang, and lose the game. So he pushes, I have to go take it, he takes it, I take it, and now he tries to shoulder me out. And so a lot of people, a lot of lower rated players might get scared here, thinking he just reached my pawn, it's my turn, and now I'm in zugzwang because I have to move my king, and then I lose the game. But as long as you know, like if you tried to go around this way, you do lose the game. Or if your king was here, let's say, he goes here, and now you have to, well, you would just take the pawn, doesn't work. But in any case, as long as you know opposition, so he's going to get the pawn, and you know that, but you also know that his king's going to be here. And when his king is here, you want your king to be opposite it, and for it to be his move. So you just go here. The only move that works, because if he doesn't take the pawn, it's a draw. So he has to take the pawn, but then opposition. And it's a known drawn endgame, so there's no point in playing this out. 50 moves deep and 90% accuracy and quite a fight. This guy barely used any time. 11 minutes. We started with 15 minutes. He has 11 minutes, and we were 50 moves deep. He's playing against a 2000, me, and he didn't even. Yeah, I was better at a point, but like he didn't struggle at all. I struggled at 4 minutes, but I'll take it because it was a high accuracy game, and I learned some interesting things like the bishop to c7. So I'm happy with that game. Another nice game, above 2000 in the realm of the gods. We'll keep climbing. Thanks for watching.